My name is Alex Peterson. I'm the director of the Santa Cruz County Small Business Development Center. I've been with the program since 2020 in different capacities, been director for about 2.5 years now, and I'm just going to give you a very short overview of the program before Keith, our primary advisor, gets into the actual content for business owners. So this is the network we were just talking about. This is the Northern California network. There's 16 regions currently. It's always changing a little bit. Every 5 years, some of those borders change. But this is Northern California, and every state in the US actually has an SBDC network. California is broken up into 5 regions. Many states just have a single SBDC center, but California is like the 4th largest economy in the world, so that's why we have so many. Our center in Santa Cruz only serves Santa Cruz County. That, of course, has also changed over the years. It used to include Monterey, San Benito. But fun fact about the Santa Cruz Center and its relationship with the Cabrillo College, which is the host of the program. That's the longest lasting host-center relationship in the network, and it's been at Cabrillo for 40 years. So it's pretty cool, yeah. This is where the funding comes from. So Cabrillo College hosts the program, which is essentially a grant program. It's funded by the SBA. It's kind of like the main funder of the program, the federal government, state of California, and the county and city of Santa Cruz. Sometimes we'll also get miscellaneous grants, but this is really the core of the funding that allows us to do the work that we do, which is one-on-one advising. That's the main thing that we do. We have a team of advisors, which may be on the next slide. Yes, it is. So right now we have 10. That also ebbs and flows. Actually, there is somebody not on here that we got recently who focuses on AI, and especially AI as it applies to digital marketing. So we're always trying to stay up to date with the client's needs or the business needs in Santa Cruz. This is the other thing that we do, kind of like what we're doing here, training events. We have a couple big programs, like there's the Small Business Summit we put on every year at Cabrillo College. It's usually around 200 people, day-long event of trainings. We're also doing a couple sort of series of trainings right now. We just wrapped up an accelerator program that connects startups to venture capital over the hills and prepares them to pitch for that. We're right now in the middle of a manufacturing boot camp in partnership with the Idea Fab Labs Makerspace out of the Wrigley building downtown. So yeah, we're always trying to do new and innovative things. This is a video that never works. Let's see. I don't think it's going to. I think it's on YouTube and this is downloaded, so, but you can see that online. It just goes over the sort of client process from the perspective of the business owner, but I will talk about that a little bit. These are regional numbers that are actually quite outdated by now. They only update us with the regional numbers every few years, it seems like. But what is more important is the local impact here. So when we work with business business owners, every year we ask you as a business owner, how has your business grown through working with us, and what economic growth would you attribute to working with us? And so these are the numbers that we get from those annual surveys. This is the last one we did. Actually, I have the numbers for 2025, but they just came out in October, so I haven't updated the slide yet. But yeah, so about 50 business starts every year, thanks to Keith, who's always working with startups. Jobs created, almost 400, sales increase of 15 million, and capital funding acquired of 38 million, and that's a mix of bank loans and venture capital. So yeah, work with usually between 500 and 600 unique businesses every year. Those businesses always come and go, so some of them are new, some of them we've been working with for a decade or more. And yeah, it's a little bit, these numbers are what the business owner says that they achieved through working with us, but it's anybody's guess, obviously. What they would have achieved without working with us, it's hard to say, but this is how we measure our success. And it's about as accurate as we're able to get. We also do special programs. This is or special assistance for disasters. I did a lot of work with this, which really kind of made me fall in love with the program in 2020 during COVID. A lot of micro grants, working with a lot of the municipalities to get out the funding and help the SBA allocate those resources for EIDL and the PPP loans. These are also cool programs from the Northern California network that we can leverage. You can see we have the GoBiz program that helps with government procurement. So if you're a business who has any sort of product or service that either the state or local municipalities or organizations would be interested in, we can help you navigate those bureaucratic, hoops that they make you jump through, which can be quite complicated, but we do have specialists dedicated to that purpose. There's a lot of money out there, especially for small businesses. The restaurant program, Tech Futures Group has specialists based in the Bay Area, a lot of deep connections with venture capitalists, which most of our clients are actually more traditional businesses, but there is an emerging and growing field for venture capital in Santa Cruz, and the connection between Silicon Valley, I think, is always growing. And then the Finance Center, who specializes in just getting people loans overall. We also have access to that team of advisors on that little flyer, and there's usually between 10 and 20 regional advisors who kind of fill in the gaps for specialty needs that we may not offer at this Santa Cruz level. This is how to sign up if you're not already a client and you want to be. You just go to our website, santacruzsbdc.org, click that button, fill out a quick form, have a quick phone call, and then you can work with Keith or any one of our other advisors, basically as much as you want. We do ask that you're making progress and that you report any economic impacts that you have. That's it. Everything else is free. It's fully confidential. Both of those things we take very seriously. So I think that's it. Yeah. Any questions? Yes.
Hi, Chu. The slide before all the faces, was that the one that you listed what you do to help people?
Sorry, with this one?
The one before that.
This.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is that? What Keith is going to go through? Or?
So this is some of the areas of advising that we have. So Keith is a specialist in a number of different areas, especially in startup planning, business strategy, business planning, access to capital. He has a lot of experience in restaurants, but each one of our advisors kind of has one or two core specialties, and then they may have other adjacent topics that they're experienced in or have background in that they can also help with. But we try to match you depending on your most immediate pressing business need with the appropriate advisor, and then you can kind of cycle through. So you may start out with Keith writing a business plan, but then you find out, oh, I need capital, so you want to go to a capital expert. You may find out, oh, I want to hire somebody, so you work with our HR expert. Then you might need to get your books in order, so you work with our accounting expert. And just kind of, as you need, we're always here. As you have time to. I know that's a big thing for small business owners. Yes.
So I had heard you guys would give like 6 hours. It's not 6 hours, it's a lot more than that?
It is technically, the rule that we follow is 10 hours per year, and then I check in. And if you're making economic progress and we feel like you're putting in a good faith effort and not abusing the program, then you can keep working with us. But it's a little bit loose. It has a lot to do with my discretion as the director, because we do have finite resources. It is taxpayer funded, so we try to be careful about that. There are individuals who, for whatever reason, want to meet a lot and don't really seem to be doing any of the work on their end, but that's rare. So yeah, if you need to work with advisors, reach out to us. If you end up not making progress and using a ton of hours, we'll have a discussion and see what's going on.
I'm also curious, one of those categories was the restaurant.
Yes.
Can you just, a little bit of that, because I know we have a couple restaurants.
Yeah, so that's a special regional program,
Okay.
and they're kind of like how I'm the director of the Santa Cruz SBDC, and I have my whole team. They're a separate program. They have their director. They have their whole team of specialists, and each one has experience in the restaurant industry in probably different capacities, but they still may also have like someone who focuses on restaurant like accounting or restaurant like inventory. I'm not sure, I'm not a restaurant expert myself, but yeah, if you are a restaurant and want to work with the SBDC, that would probably come out during the intake phone call. We have a regional intake team who has a conversation with each business owner, talks to them about their industry, what's going on, and if you're a good fit for any one of the regional programs, they'll make that referral.
Can I interject something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just got off a call with somebody this morning who owns a very iconic restaurant in Santa Cruz. Worked with him previously a little bit. He got back to me. We came up with some things, and nothing really moved the needle on it. So I'm in the process of reaching out to our restaurant group and seeing how that person can get involved with the restaurant group to get additional resources that are above and beyond what I can offer.
Another aspect of the regional program is sometimes they have special language services. We have a handful of we have 3 advisors on our local team who speak Spanish, but there's other different languages that, not a lot of people in Santa Cruz, not enough probably to justify us bringing somebody on, but as a region, they do, especially in the Bay Area. There's
I'm curious
diverse
to
demographics.
buying and selling businesses, because I know that's quite a specialty. Are you working with people to buy and sell, or more giving them information?
Yeah,
How do I-
Keith actually does a lot of that.
I do a lot of that. I'm working with a lot of people now who've been in business for a long time, and it's time to say I'm done. You hit that wall. I get them. I'm not technically allowed to go through the entire process, but I can help them make sure that if they're going to sell their business, that they have all their financials in place. I can outline the process of selling the business with them, and I always recommend that they get an agent and they go through an escrow. If I got somebody who's buying a business, I can help evaluate the value, but again, they're going to have to go out and get an agent to work with them on that to make sure that they go through that process properly. But I can kind of get them in shape for it. I can say, this is a good deal, or this is something, you want to buy this business, you're going to go for a loan, and you got 3 months left on the lease. Well, that's an issue that's going to have to be worked on. Okay, so I can kind of do a little initial triage.
And that touches on an important topic about the SBDC, is that our advisors are not allowed to do the work for you. On the private market, if you're hiring a business advisor, they probably will do a lot of the work for you. The SBDC is here to guide you and to educate you, but we're not going to do the work, and we're also not going to provide tax or legal advice. So there's certain areas that just, it's kind of a gray line in some cases, but we try to stay on the legal side of that line.
There's a federal mandate that we're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, we also can't work with things that are federally illegal, like marijuana businesses, gambling, etc.
But alcohol you can?
Yeah.
And any stage in the business that you would want to work with?
Yeah,
or-
so any stage, pre-venture to, you're ready to sell. Our definition of small business comes actually from the federal government, so it's up to 500 employees, which I know in Santa Cruz, it's like 99% of businesses. The phrase small business doesn't really match in local, terminology.
Is that the only criteria, the 500 employees basically then?
Under 500 employees, federally legal, yeah, we can work with you. Even if you're in like the very early ideation stages. Even if you're say, hey, I have a dream of being a business owner, I don't have any money or any idea, we can still probably work with you. If you got, we're happy to help as long as you're taking it seriously. We're there. Yes.
So is your day-long seminar or program that you have at Cabrillo, is that the former 82% micro business?
Yeah, that's it. We
Okay.
just kind of changed the name of it, but
Okay.
yeah, that is the
So
same
when
program.
is that? Is that still in May?
Typically, it corresponds with Small Business Week. I'm actually having discussions with some of our partners around that because I am expecting my first child in February, and I think I might be a little bit busy with the planning and paternity leave, so we might be pushing it out a little bit further. Those are still just ongoing discussions, though.
Let me ask you, it sounds like such a great plan. I know when I first heard about it, I think it was through you, Ryan, maybe. when I first heard about it, it's like, why don't people know about this? How full do you guys tend to go? Are you always like, you've got capacity, or?
Yeah, it's always sort of a balancing act, but I will say that we have always fully expended the funding that we have available. So I'm always searching for more, and a lot of our funding is very restrictive, so I can't, most of our funding has to go to one-on-one advising, which leaves a very limited amount of funding towards administration of the program and marketing of the program. So if I had more unrestricted funding, then I could market more, we could get more. I don't have a great sense of what the total need for is in Santa Cruz County. I mean, a lot of people know about the program. We've been here for 40 years. We do active paid marketing and things like this all the time. But I'm sure there is some, total possible market of entrepreneurs and business owners in Santa Cruz County. And yeah, I imagine if we could probably double our budget before we hit that threshold. Okay, move on to Keith.
Sure. I'd also like to say that this is a highly audited program.
Yeah.
And every 5 years, there's an accreditation process that every state that's involved in the program has to participate in. Auditors and people from out of state, usually other like state directors or regional directors come in, and they go through, they tear you apart basically, looking for stuff. And we just went through it last Thursday, but it took us 6 weeks in preparation to be ready for our 2-hour interview.
That's, most of what I spend my time on is honestly compliance because of the bureaucracies involved in all the funding that we get and the sources that we get. Luckily, the city and county are a little bit more lenient. I can spend more time thinking of innovative ways to meet the needs of the public rather than just like paperwork. But the state and the federal government are very serious about that.
Yeah. So, I jokingly say with my clients, I can actually feel good about saying I'm from the government, I'm here to help. I can actually feel good about saying that because it's a program that really delivers a lot. And when, things started getting cut at the beginning of the year with the new administration, we were all kind of saying, are we next? The program's fully funded.
And actually, last year, the state wanted to cut the program by 50%, and each of the 5 networks in the state came together and really rallied to maintain full funding. We're actually maybe seeing increased funding, we're hopeful. But yeah, our funding is steady in the state and the federal government at this time, which is great because it brings in a lot of economic development funding from out of the area that Santa Cruz just doesn't really have the capacity to provide.
And kind of not to toot our horn, but we're the second smallest county in the state, and we generate some good numbers. I mean, 13. The amount of money that we help people raise and grow, it's pretty significant for a small team.
We're actually the #1 in the Northern California region of economic impact return per dollar, even considered like greater than Sacramento, greater than Silicon Valley. It's pretty impressive. Yeah.
And that's because this team's been together for a long time. Somebody asked earlier on about, can you work with more than one advisor? I actually started working with a local restaurant, brought in 4 other advisors. We had 5 advisors working with that restaurant, and they're doing really well now. So, anyway, one of the things that I do with the SBDC is, Alex said, is I help people start businesses. I also help people scale their business. Because once you get past that startup stage, we start looking at scaling the business. A tool that I like to use a lot is what's called the Lean Planning Canvas. It's widely used. A gentleman by the name of Ash Moria developed it around 2010. I found out about it soon afterwards. Started using it with some of my clients in some of my workshops. They really liked it. And so now I fully embrace using this tool, and this is something I'm going to take you through today. Now, everybody in the room here has got a business. I understand that.
But also, you know, if you're not changing your business, if you're not looking for new resources and new opportunities, whether it's a service-based business or if you're a retail business, you're selling a product, you could be in trouble. Okay, I mean, you know, if you've got something going and it's going okay, great. But I was in business in this town in a highly competitive business for a long time. I mean, it was a crowded field, even more so now. And we were always innovating and always bringing things on. And I wish I'd had this tool to help me plan it out a little bit better. So this is what I'm going to take you through today. Okay? It's meant to be done quickly. It's meant to be done 20, 30 minutes, to be honest with you. I started using this tool. I read all of Ash's books, listened to all his videos and everything else. Then a few years ago, I got a chance to take a 5-day workshop with him. It was 5 hours a day. I was complaining because I had to be on the call at 7 o'clock in the morning, but there was some guy in Australia that was on the call. It was like middle of the night the next day, you know, that kind of thing. But this is a great tool. It's easy. I first really tested it with a bunch of middle school kids at a summer camp at Cabrillo College. I figured, you know, if I could teach it to them, I could teach it to anybody. The guy I was teaching it with allocated 45 minutes for each one of the sections here. And at the end of like the first hour, we realized we were in trouble because the kids were getting it in like 5 minutes. They just understood it. So we panicked. We had to rewrite the entire rest of the week because nothing like 16 middle school kids in a room with nothing to do. You know, if you've ever been there, it can be quite daunting if you don't have something. So we recreated the rest of the workshop. We did it pretty quickly, but it just shows to. And also, some of the kids walked in and actually handed us their business cards. There was one little girl, long dark hair, glasses, everything else, and she handed me her business card. She was importing stuff from China already. And she said, you know, I'm really disappointed with myself. And I said, you know, why? She said, because it took me 2 days to build that website. It should have only taken me 1 day to build the website. And like, really? But anyway, the kids got it. And the point of that is that it's easy. Don't overthink this, okay? That's the moral of that story is don't overthink this. Come up with a kid's mind, okay? So it's called the Lean Planning Canvas. And if anybody here has any questions, if you fill this out and you want to go over it with someone, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you with that. If you haven't signed up for services already, that would be helpful. And it's easy enough to do, as Alex said. Go to the website, click the button, fill out the form, do the quick interview, and then you get assigned to the center. And then, depending on what your needs are, you get assigned to the right advisor, okay? So, Lean Planning Canvas. So, okay, here we go. Of course, okay.
You need to be sliding.
Here we go. What does 42% represent to you? I start this almost every workshop I do with this. What do you think it means? What do you think 42% represents in the business world, obviously?
Don't want to be negative about how many businesses fail.
That's real. Yeah, but that's not quite it. There's a reason. Anybody? No? 42% of businesses fail because nobody wants to buy what you're selling. Kind of interesting. 30% of businesses fail because while you may have some clients, you don't have enough to stay profitable and obviously stay in business. Okay? You can work off cash flow for a while. That's how a lot of restaurants are working now. They're balancing cash flow like crazy. That's what a client I worked with this morning is doing. But that's very stressful. I was in that position. It's incredibly stressful. You want to get out of that as soon as possible. All right? So 42% of the startups basically fail because nobody wants to buy what you're selling. And here's a quick quote from, anybody know who I.M. Pei is? Anybody? Okay. He was probably one of the world's most famous architects. He died a couple of years ago at the age of 102. All right. You know the big glass pyramid in front of the Louvre? You've seen pictures of that? He designed that. Okay. And a lot of other very iconic buildings. But he said, first you must make the complex simple, then you must make it work. And I think that goes through with businesses as well. The more complex business models, the better chance you have of not making it. The more simple, the more streamlined business model you have, you got a better chance of making it because everybody understands what you're doing. So this is, and Ash's quote, "Life's too short to build something nobody wants." You know, I think that's really pertinent. And you see a lot of stuff being advertised, whether you're on the socials or you're watching some, God forbid, some TV that actually has ads. You see stuff all the time being advertised, and sometimes you think, who thought that was a good idea? You know, and usually you don't see it for very long because it doesn't work. So what is the Lean Canvas? It's a tool that supports the Lean methodology of starting a business and running a business. It's called Build, Measure, and Learn. So you build a product or service, you get feedback from it from your initial customers, you refine that model, and you come out with a better version of it, okay? Build, Measure, Learn. And a guy named Eric Ries wrote a book in 2011 called The Lean Startup. This is a tool that supports that methodology. So number one on the sheet here, and you can fill it in if you like, or you at least take some notes on it. Top left-hand corner says problem or opportunity in the market. You know, if you've already got a business going, what are you thinking about adding to that business? Is that going to help you grow the business or scale the business in any way, shape, or form? So you need to do something like this to test it, to see whether or not it's a good idea, if there's going to be a market for it. So the first thing we do is we identify the problem. And the guy who developed this said, you know, and when I took that workshop for 25 hours in that week, he sent us all a t-shirt that says, "Love the problem, not your solution." Because if you love the problem a lot, you'll be more creative with the solution. You're just not locked into your solution for the problem. Okay. So what the first thing on the list here is number one is, what is the problem in the market that you're trying to address? Okay? So just take a second and jot something in there as a placeholder, nothing more, okay? And I know it's difficult to write here, I apologize for that. Perhaps pulling some extra chairs up or something might be helpful, where you could write on it. But at least identify what that is. If you're in a restaurant business and you're just doing people walking through the door and you're thinking about doing maybe catering, you know, what is the problem in the market? What is the opportunity in the market for catering? You know, or, you know, a meal delivery service. You saw a lot of creativity during the pandemic. I used this tool a lot during the pandemic when people's business models literally were shut down overnight. You know? Retailers got hammered with it. Everybody was trying to figure out another way to at least kind of stay solvent until the thing passed, until there was a vaccine, until the money started coming through. As Alex said, the SBDC worked a lot with the PPP loans, as well as the IDA loans. We did a lot of work with them, but when I was working with people, I was also saying, what's the next step? Once we get the application done, how are you going to stay in business? And this is the tool that we use. Okay? Very, very powerful tool. It's taught in most of the major business schools. So just a quick placeholder in there. Whether you're scaling your business, whether you're thinking about starting another business, there's a lot of people doing that now. It's called the silver tsunami, by the way. People who have been in business for 15, 20, 25 years saying, I've had enough, I want to move on, you know, and I want to sell the business. The problem is a lot of the people never started their business or built the business to sell it. And if you build the business to sell it from day one, you'll have an asset, all right? So keep that in mind as well. And also, if you build the business to sell it, you'll have a very smooth running business. Okay, there's a great book called The E-Myth Revisited that talks about systematizing your business, making it turnkey. The takeaway for the line there is work on your business and not in it, okay? So if you set up your business to do that, which is what I did with mine, it makes it more effective in the long run and makes it less stressful. But identify that problem, just put something in there real quickly and then we're going to move on. You can see on the column there where it is. And right below that, you see existing alternatives. Really nice way of saying existing competition. Like who's already doing it? Okay? And it's not that it's bad. You can learn from those folks. You can see what they're doing, say they're doing something right, or hey, I've got an opportunity here. You know, they're the 800-pound gorilla in the room, but they're missing out on this. I'm going to go for that. Okay? So you can learn a lot from your existing competition. So fill in both of those. I get real good at watching people write. And these are really key. I mean, this first one, identifying the problem, is really, really key. Again, you want to make sure, and I should add, just kind of reinforce what I said previously. First question is you ask yourself, what's the problem or opportunity in the market? The second question is it worth solving? Sometimes the problem just isn't worth solving. I worked on a startup team one weekend years ago, and it was to build a better Craigslist. And halfway through the weekend, I realized Craigslist works just fine. We don't have to build another Craigslist. Yeah, the interface is ugly, but it's a classified ad, but it's online. Classified ads were never pretty. It was like what was being sold, how much, and how you get in touch with me. Basically, that's all it was. That's all Craigslist is. You know, maybe with some pictures. Okay. So you have to ask yourself that question: is it worth solving? Is it worth going after? Okay. That's where working with an advisor can really be helpful, because you're not going to get friends and family saying, oh yeah, I can do that. You can get somebody who's going to be objective around it, who's kind of seen it. What you doing?
I'm not helping. I'm trying to help. It's not working.
I don't need the PowerPoint. I've done this like a zillion times. I can do it in my sleep. So yeah, there you go.
There we go.
So you're gonna hang out over here.
Okay.
Just to- Unfortunately, I have two microphones.
You know where. All right. Yep. And I think the bottom line that I got underlined is what you're doing has to be significantly better than your competition is doing. I was in a very crowded field. We just took it up a notch. We made it easier for people to buy. It's a different type of product like that people were putting out. And we had some rock and roll behind it. We had some good PR behind it. We had no money, but we had some good PR behind it. All right. So these are the two things that kind of anchor the rest of it. So then we get into early adopters. These people are key. These are people who are waiting for you to come along. These are people who have been saying, boy, I wish there was this out there that I could tag into. And when you're there with it, you have to identify who those people are. Okay, who are you going to go after? Friends and family are nice. I get it. I see a lot of things in when we start talking about how you're going to market. I see a lot of friends and family in the early adopters, and that's nice. They'll give you the encouragement, but it's not the feedback that you're really looking for. And eventually, they're not going to spend that much money with you. Okay. So identify and be as precise as possible, because in a few minutes you'll understand why that's important. So understanding your early adopters, they give you two things. The most important thing they give you is feedback. Unadulterated, pure, objective feedback. And there's so many ways they can do that now. So you got to be careful, but that's the thing you're looking for. I mean, I got an iPhone 15. Smartphones came out in 2007. How many versions of all these phones do we have now? There's constant iteration of what's going on, right, with that particular product. Better cameras. Of course, the voice, the hearing on the phone doesn't get a heck of a lot better, but boy, the screen goes all the way to the edge. The camera's better. You got more access to apps. There's a whole bunch of stuff, right? I don't know why they call it a phone. But you're going to get that early feedback. You're going to make changes based on that. And by the way, they're also going to give you money. I highly advise you don't undersell the product. You charge full price for the product. You have to have money coming through the door on it. If you're going to start any offshoot on a business, if you've already got an existing business, you got to set up a different set of books for it, and you've got to make sure that you're making money on it. You don't discount it just because it's new to the public. Okay, you're not going to buy the market. It's the worst thing you can do. You got early adopters. Then who's your eventual customer base? Who are those folks that are going to be there once you get established? If you take a look at the start, the beginnings of Facebook, and I'll use that as an example. Do you know anybody? You know who the early adopters for Facebook were? Anybody?
College students.
Huh?
College students.
Yeah, but which college students?
Harvard.
Harvard, exactly. We go down another set. Who at Harvard? Men at Harvard. It was set up to rate women at Harvard. That's what it was set up to do initially. And then the women came on board, and then they said, well, we could do this with other Ivy League schools. Of course they're going to say Ivy League because they're at Harvard. But it's like, why just Ivy League schools? And then it's like the parents of those kids. I got on Facebook because my daughter was traveling around the world, right? Doing what she should have been doing at the time. And I kept on bugging her. I was saying, when are you going to send me some pictures? She said, Dad, I'm on Facebook. And it's like, okay, I'll get on Facebook. That's how I got on Facebook. And then it was the parents. And then the kids said, our parents are here. We're going to go over to Instagram. And their kids are going over to TikTok, right? I mean, it's all about that. But it's understanding who your market is, okay? Okay. So who are the eventual customers that you're going to be tagging into? And I think that's something you have to see that there's going to be growth and potential there. You just don't want a lot of early adopters. It has to be adapted and used by kind of mainstream people. Okay? So that's where that is. So you can see on either side what this really is. Everybody's heard of product market fit. It's a cliche in the business world. Products on the left-hand side, markets on the right-hand side. And what's in the middle? Unique value proposition. That's the glue that combines the two. All right? This is where businesses, they're always looking for that product market fit. They're always looking to make that work, because without that, the business doesn't make it. So a unique value proposition is really, really key. And if you thoroughly understand, get this right, if you thoroughly understand what the problem in the market is, and you're addressing that problem, you're halfway to developing a really good unique value proposition. If you've got a website, and hopefully you do, the unique value proposition should be on your homepage. And it should make your homepage a little stickier than it is, which means people are going to stay there longer. The average length of stay on a homepage, from what I've been told by people who know, is around 5 seconds. If people don't see what they were looking for in 5 seconds, they're moving on. Unique value proposition will hold people on that website and say, maybe I'll read a little bit more. I like what I read. Maybe I'll reach out to this person. That contact thing there. Maybe I get a 20-minute consultation, or maybe you'll answer some questions for me. That's that client journey that's really important. Kind of starts with that unique value proposition. And I've got templates that say, I provide this service to these people with these outcomes. That's not what you're looking for. You're really looking for that thing that goes deeper than that yearning that people have to solve that problem that they have. I worked with somebody not too long ago who does college counseling, helps high school kids get into college. And we could, there's a whole ton of things you could say, get into the college of your choice, and then, all of those things that would attract somebody. That's why you're going there. But she really wanted to focus in on Hispanic students going to college. That was her passion. She came up with this great one. It said enhance your economic and social opportunities. Had nothing to say about college. But put that on the homepage, and it started really making that homepage a lot stickier. So I think when you start looking for a unique value proposition, that's what you need to be thinking about. If you take a look at the bottom one here, it says transformative change in the business and nonprofit worlds. I also work a lot with people. The second step of my planning process with people is something called a one-page business plan, which is really, really detail focused. Single sheet, vision statement for 3 years, measurable objectives for a calendar year, strategies to support each objective, and then we break the strategies down to a task and a date. It completely changed the way business plans were written, okay? But if you notice in this unique value proposition, it doesn't say anything about business planning. It just says transformative change, because The old school way was to write a 40-page business plan. The bane of my existence now is ChatGPT. Lately, I've been getting requests from clients saying, could you review my business plan for me? I said, yeah, sure, I'll be doing it. She said, I had ChatGPT do it. And the last person I talked to said, and it's 100 pages long, like they were proud of it. And I said, tell Chat to make it 10, okay? And Chat will do that. The day of the very, very lengthy business plan, and with really rare circumstances, is long gone, okay? 3 to 5 pages is where most banks want it right now, with a couple of years worth of projections and a really good executive summary. They don't want anything lengthy, they want you to get you to the point. This is more of an internal document, both of these techniques, but that one-page plan, it's what most of the banks use when they do their planning, their annual planning. Okay. Unique value proposition is really key. Usually they give you a lot of room to write, and I'll show you what I mean. Here's some good things. The benefits derived after using your product, and I think that that's a key thing. Like, what is that solution that client is looking for? But you can see that it sits right in the middle between the product and the market. It's the glue that brings it together. Okay? So think on a higher level. Don't think of like, I provide this service to these people. People just move on and they'll leave you alone. Think about something that's going to resonate with people. You know, usually people fill this thing up, but we're able to pull out a phrase or a couple of words that we can actually pull together and have something that resonates, just like that college counselor that I was talking about. It took us a little while to get there, but it really resonated with her, and it's really resonating with her clients. Your solution. This is what everybody usually leads with, right? This is what everybody comes and says, I'm going to do this. This is number 6 on the list of doing this, all right? This is not the first thing we think about. It's the 6th thing that we think about. And obviously it has to connect with what the problem is. If it doesn't, then it's not going to work. So it sits in that box. They don't give you a lot of room to write, but that's okay. But the solution has to just keep it really simple, keep it really tight, and keep it focused on what the problem is or the opportunity is in that market. Channels. A few minutes ago I was talking about early adopters and how it was important to really understand who they were. Obviously you need to know who they are so you can identify them. Also so you know how to market to them. So you know how, you're not wasting time, effort, and energy and money marketing to the wrong group of people in the wrong way. So if I'm going to sell stuff to UCSC students, sticking an ad in the Santa Cruz Sentinel is probably not the best use of their money. Okay? Sentinel's good for a variety of other things, probably not UCSC students. That doesn't mean that print doesn't work. You put the same ad in City on the Hill Press, and you're going to get right in front of everybody that you're looking for. So understand. I mean, it's just understanding who your marketing is, who your market is, and how they get their information. I'm assuming everybody in the room does marketing in some way, in some level, and I think that when I was running my business, I tried a lot of different things. Obviously, I sold it years before tech really became, involved, and social media really became big. So I did a lot of print and radio advertising. But even with the radio stations, I only advertised on certain radio stations because that's where my clients were coming from. So how do your early adopters get their information, which means you're not wasting time and money? And that's really, really important. Because you don't have much of either, especially when you're starting. And when you're scaling a business, people think, well, I'm going to grow my business. But one of the things they don't realize is how much it's going to cost you to grow that business. That can get really expensive to scale if you don't do it properly. And when you're looking for new markets, you've got a new product line coming out or a new service that you're coming out with, you're looking for new markets, spraying and praying really doesn't work. All right? You've got to be targeted, you've got to be focused. And you got to know who you're selling to. Like if you want to sell to me, Facebook's probably a good place to put it because I'm on it a lot, because I have a lot of clients that are on it, so I'm checking up to see what they're doing. If you want to sell to my kids, put it on Instagram. If I'm going to reach out, I'm not going to put stuff up on Pinterest. to attract clients, but I am going to have a good LinkedIn profile. It's pretty logical stuff. And here's just some examples here. And I think the biggest takeaway is on the bottom here. You've got to consider marketing as an investment rather than an expense. I think, and with an investment, you need a return on that investment. So you got to track. You got to track the effectiveness of the marketing that you're doing. So, you know, that's why people say mention this and get so much off. They want to, if you mention that, then the person who's selling you that product or service is saying, okay, I'm getting a lot of requests on that. I'm hearing that name a lot. That's why people use coupons a lot. Okay, they're just trying to gauge where their advertising dollar is going, but make sure that it works. You're treating it like an investment. My old business partner set up a similar business when up in another part of the state, and when the recession hit in 07, his business kind of tanked a little bit. So he started doubling up on everything he was doing. He didn't hold back, he doubled up. None of it worked. Dumped everything and started doing these big events, and all the proceeds from the events went to the music programs in the kids' elementary schools in his area, and he overnight success with the business. It really pumped it up. It was highly successful. He did, you know, he was in Little League games. He across the board did this big fun ride with bikes between his locations, similar to the Wharf to Wharf. He had bands. He had the whole thing. And people were writing stories about him, and his business just grew from that. Okay, so you got to make sure that when you're advertising, you're treating it like an investment. So the next two I usually do together, like it's revenues and costs or expenses. Where's the money coming from? And you can see some ideas up here. It could be product sales, it could be hourly sales, it could be workshops. You know, I make money a number of different ways. With the SBDC, I do these workshops for people. I do one-on-one trainings. I do a variety of other things for the center. For a number of years, I actually was the person who made sure that the new clients are getting lined up with the right advisor, and I was paid to do that. So you want to make sure that you have a number of different ways. I also have outside clients, outside the SBDC. You want to make sure you have a couple of different revenue streams. And your costs, what are they? All of them. You know, software used to be great. You go buy a program and that was it. You know, you go to Costco, buy QuickBooks, and you were done. Now you pay a subscription for it. You know, I work with a lot of people who use a MindBody, which is used for a lot of yoga studios and massage therapy studios and those kinds of folks, health-related stuff. MindBody used to be able to buy. Now it's a subscription, and various levels on that subscription. You know, so can be a major cost, and you know, there's a lot of things that go into running a business, as you well know. One of the things that's really affecting my client is credit card costs that everybody's seeing, and you're starting to see people dealing with it in ways like, I'm putting that cost on the final bill. Especially in restaurants, you're seeing that a lot, because most people go to a restaurant, unless they're buying a hot dog on the corner, they're paying for it with a credit card. Usually for the hot dog, they're paying for a credit card too. You go buy a cup of coffee, you're hitting it with your credit card. This credit card fees for a lot of, especially restaurants, you know, are just getting really outrageous. And it's really, really hurting a lot of people, so they're starting to charge for that, reacting to it. Then of course that does nothing to endear them to their clients and their customers. Unfortunately, it's something that we'll have to see how it works out, but I think you're going to see more and more people just adding those fees on. You know, I mean, I get my car washed and it's an extra 2 or 3% based on what I'm getting done that they're tacking on right there. Okay? It's like, okay, I get it. Key metrics. Every business owner has them. Every business owner has a couple of things that they look at to let them know how they're doing before they get a profit and loss statement or a balance sheet every month. And hopefully everybody in the room and everybody online has somebody that's doing their books for them, all right? Whether they're doing it themselves, which I usually don't recommend unless you've taken a lot of accounting classes or an accountant yourself, But hopefully you have some way of keeping track of your profit and loss every month. It's your report card on how well you're managing your business. I had a couple of key numbers that I looked at every month. Food costs, labor costs, and my paper supply costs, because I used a lot of paper goods. I looked at those not just as a dollar amount, but as a percentage of my sales. That's the only way you can really manage your business. I'm talking about the numbers that you look at every day, like how many people, how many referrals. If you're in a service-related business, you're providing service, how many referrals are you getting on a monthly basis? What's the bounce rate on your website? How many people come and leave immediately? Really important thing to understand. If you have a website and you got a high bounce rate, one of the things you want to look at is your unique value proposition. If you change that around, if you wordsmith that around, you can help reduce that bounce rate. All right. Conversions. People coming to the website or people calling you up and saying, wanting to talk about what you're doing, how many of those people become clients? Everybody has those numbers. For me, I was in the pizza business. There's a number of deliveries I did on a Friday night between, depending on the time of year, for a 3 or 4 hour period in the early, from late afternoon into the early evening, because that was prime time. I wanted to know on a Friday night how many deliveries we were doing. And I had a set number that I always looked at that let me know that, okay, we did 120 deliveries in that period of time, fine, we were good. If it was more than that, how long were the waits? Do we need to bring extra people on? Do we need to beef up the prep? If it was less than that, do we need this many people on? Can we reduce the prep? It was a management tool. And I think every business owner has those key numbers that they look for. I'm not talking about KPIs, key performance indicators. I'm talking about key metrics. What are that intuitive thing, the pulse of your business? It's there. An unfair advantage. Understanding your existing alternatives, how they operate, who that competition is. What do you have over them? What do you have that they don't have? Here are some key things that I think are really important. Low cost of goods sold. Wonder why a lot of restaurants are selling pizzas these days? Because they're very affordable to make, and you can charge more for them. So your margins are better, all right? So low cost of goods. You have good employees, a good dream team. You have your key employees really experienced. If you're venture capitalists, look for a team rather than the project. They would rather have an A team and a B plan than the other way around. All right? They want to make sure that the people running the business know what the heck they're doing. If you have a large network, maybe you've been in the community for a long time. All of these things are really important. SEO rankings. It's an art form these days, and science. But I think SEO rankings are really helpful. But I think the other things are probably as important. Okay. And bottom line, that fast learning as an organizational value, I think if you're not keeping up to date on the latest trends and latest laws and the latest things that can affect your business, which means you're curious about everything that can affect your business, then I think you're going to be behind the 8 ball. It's going to be really difficult. Okay? So what we've done in roughly half an hour or so is we've gone through the lean planning canvas. And if you take a look at it, it's all logical stuff. There's nothing here that people would look at and go, that's crazy. This is all logical stuff that goes into helping you either create a new business or keep your business going in a sustainable manner. And again, I think if you're thinking about adding on to either your product or service line, going through the canvas first can be really helpful, and I do it every day with people. I'm pretty busy with folks. They said we're the second smallest county in the state. But going back to the 1800s, there's always been a higher percentage of self-employed people in Santa Cruz County. I learned this in Leadership Santa Cruz. There's always been for a couple of reasons. One, geography. You're wedged in by the ocean and the mountains. And secondly, there were 3 major industries in town. So have you had this workshop yet? Leadership? No? You haven't gotten there? Well, I'll make you so you can show off when they ask the question. Lime, leather, and lumber, okay? Those were the major industries in this community. And the lime actually comes from Davenport, and they use it to make concrete to build, rebuild San Francisco after the earthquake. But leather and lumber, all the tanneries that were in town, the last one converted over into an artist community, which is kind of cool thing to do with it. But lime, leather, and lumber, yeah, and lumber obviously, So yeah, now when you have that workshop and says, you know what the three major industries were, you all know, okay? So that's basically what I go through every client that I work with. When I first meet with them, we go through this canvas. I usually send them home with a tutorial. They come back and we review it, and then we go on to our next planning methodology, which is more detailed. And it provides that kind of direction and accountability that most people want when they're starting off. It's a roadmap with metrics. So, any questions on this? I can get you out of here on time, which is always my goal. Any questions? No? Seeing none? Thank you.
No questions, but really good stuff. Yeah.
Oh,
Like
good.
to go through and think about all of that and, my notes on my business, and no, it was great.
Oh, good. Good.
Ryan, and you went through the SBDC.
Yeah, so I went through the SBDC back in 2010 when I was starting my mortgage company,
Okay.
and had the 6 hours worth of work to help me scale out all costs and, all the things I didn't know. I was a W-2 employee forever.
Yeah.
And starting my own company and going through everything, and it tremendously helped me out. I still have the spreadsheets of what it looked like of, how much revenue I'd have to produce, how much, going through everything.
Sounds like you worked with
Self-employment
Larry.
tax, all that, yeah. So it helped out big time.
Yeah, I mean, it's really helpful. You get a better idea of what you're doing. And people have ideas for businesses, and they've got the expertise to kind of, their mindset of what they're going to sell or what they're going to offer, that kind of thing. Just don't have that technical expertise. That's where the SBDCs come in. We plug in all that technical expertise. The most people with an idea who've got that entrepreneurial spirit, who want to create something, they just say, I know what I want to do, I just don't know how to go about doing that, and that's where the SBDCs come in. So, feel free to take advantage of it. Like Alex said, we're here to help. Everybody on this team's been together for a long time, and I think that if there's a commonality between all of us, because we're all independent contractors, we don't sit around waiting for the phone to ring, all right? We're contractors. We get paid for the time we work with our clients, or we're working on client stuff. If somebody sends me a lease, I can, I go through that before I meet, after I've met with them or before I met with them. We get paid for that kind of stuff, but we don't get paid unless we're working on the client stuff. But yeah, take advantage of it. But I was going to say, I think the common trait that we all have is we're all pretty good teachers. Our goal is not just to, as Alex said, we don't do the work for you. I don't write business plans for people, but I really help them move along the way. I can edit really well. I can do that kind of stuff, but I don't write plans for people. But I think we can teach people and help them change their mindset when it comes to running a business, and I think that's really, really important. So, and in fact, go ahead.
Can you tell us the other people that are on the team, when you showed the slide earlier, what type of expertise do they bring to the table? We've kind of heard what you do.
Yeah, what I do, we have somebody that can help you with financial projections and retail management, okay? Can really help with people managing their inventory and their retail and their numbers and all the rest of that stuff. In fact, there's a number of retail businesses downtown that were pre-pandemic, that are post-pandemic, and they're still there because of this guy, okay? I mean, he kept them going. We have somebody that can do QuickBooks review. We have a couple of people, Alex mentioned one of them, that's using AI to help people market. We also have somebody that is a more generalist when it comes to marketing. We have somebody that does branding, also likes to work a lot with health clubs. It's another person. And we have a couple of people in each one of these categories in case we get a lot of traffic. Alex, who else do we have on?
HR,
yeah, that's a big one for a lot of people.
Specialists.
I work with a lot of people say, I'm going to hire people because they're going to be independent contractors. And my answer is that no, they're not. You can get into a lot of trouble real fast if you're telling them when to show up and what to do. That what was it, AB5.
Yeah.
AB5 came in 2020 that kind of changed around a lot of business models. Some of them were able to revert back because their industries went and lobbied Sacramento for it, but things like yoga studios, hair salons, they all had a different business model. They all had independent contractor business models. Quite frankly, the yoga studios had people, and they were telling them when to show up and what to teach, and that doesn't fit into that category. They had to all had to become employees, and the major pushback was from the teachers, not from the studios. But hair salons, the usual business model was somebody had a lot of experience, they opened their own salon, they set up a station for themselves, they set up 3 other stations, and they rent those out. Great business model, it works. AB5 came along and said you can't do that. Cosmetology industry lobbied the state, and they were able to go back to doing that. So we can help with a lot of people. I worked a lot with our HR person at the time to help get through that tangle. Like Alex said, we come in a lot of times when there's earthquakes, when there's floods. There's a lot of biblical stuff that happens in Santa Cruz. I was the brunt of some of it. One of my locations downtown stood, but the rest of the downtown was crumbled around it, basically. But you'll see this all the time. We also work with veterans groups. There's a lot of things that we do, but getting back to your point, like I said, we have 10, 12 advisors on the team right now, and they have those skill sets, what we just mentioned. So if you got questions regarding HR, sign up for services and we can hook you up with Melissa. It's that simple. When I worked with that restaurant with a number of different advisors, we had to rebuild the entire restaurant, not structurally, but internally when it came to how the hiring practices were done, inventory controls, management, financial management, marketing. We did so many different things with that restaurant, and it's thriving right now. I don't think it's ever been better. It's a small little restaurant, but it just kicks butt, and the menu is great. So we put a lot of effort and energy into that, but it worked because it saved a lot of jobs. Person's reinvesting into the business again, and we keeping people working. The SBA exists for one reason. That's to hire people. Okay? They guarantee loans. The SBA does not make loans unless it's catastrophe. So all the loans that were made, for the EIDL loans that were made during the pandemic, they all went directly to the SBA through their portal. All the other loans come through the banks. The SBA just guarantees those loans. So if the bank likes the loan and they want to cut down on their risk, they'll go for the SBA guarantees. So it's a bit of a misnomer when somebody says, I'm going to get an SBA loan. You're going to get a bank loan with an SBA guarantee. It's like parents co-signing on your first car, basically. Okay. Does that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much.